Ian here from Final Line Gaming, and I am now traveling through the bowels of hell to present to you 2016's Doom. Now, the big thing about this game for me is that it came out of nowhere. I wasn't paying attention to the marketing for the game, so I really went in with zero expectations. And what I found as I played through the gore-infested carnage that is Doom truly blew me away. Everything from the story, to the music, to how great the game looked, to the gameplay. But up first, let's really talk about where the game shines, and that's in the sound design. Now, with design for a game about tearing demons limb from limb, the goal is really to nail the atmospheric quality of storming the gates of hell and just decimating everything in your path. And Doom does a fantastic job of this with the masterful mixing of the demonic sounds, the environmental sounds, and merging it into the music, which, let's be frank here, is where the game is really at its best. The music starts to ramp up slowly and takes off with both shredding guitars and electronic bass that just rips through your speakers at just the right time to be more than a good motivator all in itself. The music of Doom has this wonderful quality where there's not only a greatness to it, there's a randomness to it as well, and you can hear Mick Gordon's rip and tear 30 different ways before you hear it the same way twice. The randomness of the music also helps to keep it from grating your eardrums like some other titles. Now, I could really go on forever about the sound design for this game, but I'd like to keep the video short, so let's move on to talk about the graphics. Now, Doom is a pretty well optimized game, and it doesn't take much to get to both high settings and a locked 60 frames a second at 1080p for any medium quality rig. And the game runs beautifully, and you can make out the various gibs as you disembowel the insides of all the demons you'll encounter, as well as take in all the views on both Mars and in Hell. Now, while I've heard reports of the game stuttering on consoles dipping well beneath 60 frames a second the developer promised, the only real issue I experienced was where the motion blur would give me a headache, but that was easily fixed thanks to an amazingly full options menu on the PC. So now we move on to the gameplay, and Doom is really unlike any other. Now, where you have the modern military shooters that suffer through things such as regenerating health and chest-high wall cover segments, Doom really works hard to keep you on your toes by making its combat extremely frantic. And it goes back to the school of keep moving or end up dying. Now, as stated before, the game is extremely gory, and if you are the type of person that faints at the sight of blood, I really suggest you avoid it, as there are really detailed animations. But another bit that really surprised me is the way the levels of Doom played out and the options the game gives you. Now, you can either go through the levels as linear point to point, or you can utilize the branching paths that Doom sometimes presents to you to search out secrets such as the retro levels and collectibles, like there's Doom Guy plushies that are scattered throughout the game. Now, however, what really stood out to me in regards to level designs is the way the arenas are organized. The arenas are designed so flawlessly, they allow for endless paths for you to take while you're dishing out pain to the armies of hell. Unfortunately, the weapons lack the particular punch I look for when I'm playing a game, with the super shotgun being the only exception. Now, the chainsaw sounds like a cheap dirt bike, which was a huge disappointment, and the weapon upgrade system was also disappointing, as you had to go out of your way to find these flying robots who hold the unlocks. And even then, though upgraded weapons felt underwhelming. Now, I honestly felt like the game would have been better off without that arbitrary weapon upgrade system. But what doesn't disappoint, however, is the length of the game. It can be anywhere from 12 to 20 hours, and I myself put in 27 hours into the campaign and another 10 in the multiplayer, which is a topic all its own. Now, the multiplayer of Doom is exactly what you would expect. Arena-based combat with power-ups and occasional objectives. However, it's extremely disappointing with how the combat in the multiplayer felt. As a big fan of games such as Quake 3 Arena, it felt really sluggish, with the weapons handling like a Ford F-350 that's missing a wheel. Now, it really could have been more improved, with emphasis on the combat and a lot less on the arenas and snap map. Now, spread throughout the arenas is the occasional demon pickup that transforms one of the players into a hellspawn, which is a great premise, but on release it was overpowered. And later on in the lifespan of the multiplayer, it just kept getting nerfed into the ground, and it just made it completely useless. But not every game is without faults, so now let's get to the parts that really detract from the game itself. First off, it just gets to a slow start. Once the game plops you into the action, all I wanted to do was start going against bigger and badder demons, and it takes a while until you start going off against things like the Mancubus. Now I understand that that's more of a perception issue, but it still bugs me. And now while I can praise it for the arena designs, where the game really falls flat is the layout of the actual paths to the arenas and the parkour sections. You see, Doom has one of the most refreshing movement system in all of the games I've played that's been released in the recent years. And the developers have put in various parkour areas to try to show it off. And while they do a great job of putting the movement system to work, they are very bad for the pacing of the game, and they bring the pace to a grindingly slow halt. Now let's move on to the boss battles. While I've got to say they are extremely well designed, they are not free from criticism. So beware. I am going into spoiler territory here. If you don't want spoilers, go ahead and click on the annotation. So, spoiler warning. The boss battles in this game are extremely copy-paste. As you get closer to the finale of the game, you have two separate encounters with both the Cyber Demon and the Hellgore. Now, in the case of the Cyber Demon, the boss just gets another health bar, and you're expected to defeat them again. But in the case of the Hellgores, it goes from a one-boss battle into a two-boss battle. And finally, this is a very disappointing ending that ends on a piss-poor cliffhanger, which almost sent me into fits. So really, Doom is a wonderfully gory bag of demonic rituals with an orgasmic soundtrack, and it ultimately is one of the greatest games I've had the pleasure to play in all of 2016. Again though, it's not without faults, such as the pathway design, and even with the downsides it has and the piss-poor attempt at the multiplayer, it shines above most games. So thankfully, the full experience of the game was such high quality, it makes it not only stand out as one of the best games of 2016, but one of the best games of the past decade. So 2016's Doom, for me, gets a good old 9 out of 10. Go and buy this game if you haven't already. It's fucking amazing and it's well worth a buy even at full price.